SEPTA, the regional transportation company, announced this week that there is the potential to cut 45% of their service. This is mind-blowing. We're going to break it down next and what it actually means. So if you get some value out of this or you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team about how this might affect your real estate plans, you can do that with the link in the comments. Thursday, SEPTA had a press conference where they announced there was a $213 million funding gap in next year's budget. It's a pretty big gap. And they talked about how there may be up to 45% of their service cut and substantial fare hikes that would take effect without an increase in the funding from the state of Pennsylvania. So 45% of service cuts is pretty serious. And to give you some perspective, SEPTA has regional rail that runs all throughout Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery counties to get into the city of Philadelphia. You've got the Broad Line, you've got the L, the subway in Philadelphia, not to mention all the bus lines. There's a lot of people that rely on SEPTA for transportation, so this is not good news. And the proposed changes include a 21.5% fare hike, the elimination of 50 bus routes, and 5 regional rail lines that would close 66 stations and curtail service by 20%. So they would close earlier. They wouldn't have some of the late night trains that come back. And on top of that, there would be a 9 p.m. curfew. So for all those people that take the train back and forth in the city, like you're going to the Phillies game or you're trying to catch a Sixers game or an Eagles game, well, the night games, you're going to have a heck of a time getting home. That creates even more problems for the sports complex and the transportation down there. So it's not good, especially with Philly season in full effect here. And they also talked about workforce reductions and a hiring freeze. This does not sound good. What I'm worried about is that this may be a negotiation ploy to get the funding. The transit agency is saying, SEPTA, that a funding boost from the state will be the key to allowing service to continue at the current levels. Sounds like a negotiation. And they have to plan with the cash they know they'll have. The interim GM at SEPTA said, we have no choice but to budget based on the resources that we have available. Without new sustainable funding for transit, as proposed by Governor Shapiro, SEPTA will be reducing service by 45% in the coming year. And a lot of people, they're going to be out of luck here getting back and forth. That's the unfortunate part, because a lot of people do rely on SEPTA to get where they need to go. And it's going to be a dramatic change to ridership, and, it would be the start of the dismantlement of public transportation and the region, which, Philadelphia is a city that has better public transportation than most. So this is really unfortunate to see. So what happened was the reasoning behind this is ridership declined in 2020 with the pandemic. It's rebounding, but it's not back at those levels. And federal funding from the CARES Act expired and no longer is covering the deficit. So they were relying on federal funding. Now they need the state to step in. And the grants and the subsidies from Pennsylvania and the federal government have helped, but they're not making up that gap there. So this is a big challenge. Last year, to give some perspective, Governor Shapiro flexed $153 million in federal funding that was meant for highway projects over to SEPTA, covering the budget shortfall. So this has been a problem. And Senate Republicans criticized that the move was pillaging critical infrastructure projects for other districts, which I don't think they're wrong, but we've got a funding issue here, right? Highways need repair. People need to be able to get around, and the infrastructure in the country is a real challenge right now. So the solution was to plug the hole in the boat, but the hole is coming back on July 1st. So here's what's going to happen. There's going to be a hiring freeze. There's going to be administrative cuts, lowered the budget gap from 240 to 213 million. So maybe like 15% there. There's nothing left to cut from the budget but service. And in August of 2025, they have all these bus lines that would be cut. They would be eliminating 32 bus routes, the 1, 8, 12, 19, 30, 31, 35, 47M, 50, 62, 73, 78, 80, 88, 89, 91, 106, 120, 126, 133, 150, 201, 204, 206, 311, the BLV DDIR, 452, 461, 462, 476, 478, and 484. For anyone that's from the 90s, it sounds like I was reading school closing codes right there. So that's a lot of bus routes. And then there's going to be another 16 that are going to be shortened and another 88 that would have reduced service. So, and all the special services like the Phillies Express that happens during game day, concerts, other major events, they're gone. So it's going to create major traffic problems down at the sports complex, and especially with the Sixers not having their Center City Arena anymore. This is not good news. You need SEPTA going down there. I'd like to see more public transportation down to the sport complex. So then in January 2026, there would be more bus routes that would be eliminated. The Broad Ridge Spur would be shut down along with the following regional rail lines. The Kinwood line. So that's kind of a shorter line that runs from Bala into the city back and forth. The Chestnut Hill West line that runs obviously into Chestnut Hill and to the northwest. The Paoli-Thorndale line. This is shocking to me. There are so many people that we know that rely and that we've helped at our company that rely on taking the train in and out of the city to get to the main line, Paoli, all along Lancaster Avenue there. That line's going to be gone. That's probably the most iconic service line, and people move to Lower Merion, Radnor, Tredeffrin, Easttown, and Great Valley, and now even Downingtown to catch the train line. The Trenton line, another problem, and the Wilmington Newark line. So these are major service lines that are getting interrupted. The T1 and the trolleys would be turned into bus routes, and they would have the 9 p.m. curfew. So this is not good. And when you look at this here, this is like a doomsday budget proposal, including all these drastic changes. I would imagine this is a little bit of a negotiation, and they're doing this to put pressure on the legislature to pass the budget. That's my hope. But going down to the sports complex, I don't know about you. It's a nightmare already. I don't like it. And now you're relying on Uber and Lyft or having to drive down there. Drinking and driving could be a big problem for a lot of people going. Let's call it what it is. And it is impossible getting out of that parking lot. I've been to Eagles and Phillies games with my kids and family, and you're waiting in the parking lot for like an hour just to get out. Nobody wants that. So the inability to take public transportation, it's only going to exacerbate the problem. So my hope is that we see something passed here. I put some pressure on your local legislature here. Fund SEPTA, because this could be a disaster for people commuting to work, commuting to get to school. If you're going to local colleges, maybe you're a commuter student. Temple's a big commuting university, right? There's all these problems that could happen. I don't want to see this happen. Put some pressure on the legislature. Let's get this passed and get this right. And unfortunately, I do think this is a negotiating ploy, but it's one that needs to happen because the region is relying on this, and nobody likes driving all over the place. Not good news. Let's see what happens.